doing. BLG, we got no time, Ox. We gotta jump into this.
We're going fast, right? BLG back on the red side. I feel like FPX being on red side game 2 was massively in their favor. Now moving back over, and but then a little bit of a shake up on the bans, right? Before we saw FPX banning Zeri on the blue side in game 1. Jay's gonna get banned here and not Jinx, so FPX could take Zeri here. She is left open for this first time. They are actually gonna take the Jinx. BLG could respond with the Zeri. That is a possibility.
Absolutely, they could 100% go towards that, but I suppose the question really is that do you want to from the side of BLG? Looks like they might. They look like they're trying to get the little spark of Zon down into the bot side. They're going to combo it immediately with the Leona. I love this combination. I love the combination. Go ham. Go ham at all times.
The reason is because this now means FPX can take Nautilus, which is a great answer to Zeri, right? Point and click CC. If BLG had taken that themselves, they would have denied that. So I feel like, you know, I would have gone Zeri Naut in that situation. And Leona is far worse into Zeri than Nautilus is because she's very skill shot based, right? When Zeri's going fast, hard to connect. FPX lock that in and secure it. I feel like something like Hecarim would honestly be a good pick here because it does so well at just diving onto the Zeri. But we have seen that be quite low priority in the series, so may not actually get seen too much. You can even honestly actually go for a Camille here for Shallow Who as something that also shuts it down. Camille Nautilus really good at running when useless, but looks like he's just going to commit to the jungle pick and go for the Xin Zhao. I think it's a fine pick in this situation, but you know, we'll see what BLG opt for here. They have a lot of flexibility. You can go for a top laner, ban away counters, mid laner, ban away counters, or just pick up a jungler, but it's quite a wide pool available right now. They are looking to lean towards this Trundle though. Bear in mind, this is a good matchup for the Xin Zhao. Does win against some of the early skirmishes in melee range, so wanting to match him pound for pound. And now we're looking at the solo laners, and BLG critically will have counter pick, which they will likely give over to Breeze.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing about this series. We've seen with both teams on the red side so far in games 1 and 2. But the top laner has that counter pick. It is a massive difference maker towards how the dynamic of this game could go. For FPX, of course, it was the Fiora against the Camille. You had to kind of go blind into that, but we'll see now what they want to go for. They're actually going to ban away the Tryndamere. Interesting enough here from FPX saying, look, we don't want it mid, we don't want it top, and we want to try and limit some of those big solo carry performances that you can see from some of these picks.
Maybe, I mean, you know, Graves is something that does get bodied quite hard by Tryndamere, but we haven't seen too much Graves since we came back from 12-4. Could just be that it gives a hard time to a variety of picks as a counter pick, so could also be that the flexibility of it was painful, but I don't really expect Fofo to play it. We will see the Galio banned away, which I kind of like because a Galio Camille pick up for FPX on 4-5 would be quite potent. But either way, we'll see. FPX Azir is open, by the way. I wouldn't be too amiss to banning that away, just because obviously we saw ban in that game too, and they clearly just didn't know how to handle it. But they will go for the Orianna instead. BLG, they can just go for a sort of stable blind mid laner here for Fofo. I feel like one thing is that the composition is quite short range, so you either want to like opt into that and go with something that can join it, or you pick something longer range that can deal with things from further away. But they are going to just go for the Rise, and I kind of like this, right? You have a good jungle matchup, you have a mid laner who's going to find Prio and can roam to sides, and both, like, everyone on your team is so bulky, right? Zeri's build is super tanky. Rise, we've seen the tank Rise build, not an easy team to cut through. Kef toying with the idea of the Ahri into this. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan, right? Charm into Zeri. He's probably going to could end up going cleanse, right? Or even just itemizing to have something that cleans it. Although in fairness, there's not that much to cleanse from FPX, so maybe this does have value here. Either way, look at the top lane in this situation. Graves is why I was kind of thinking with the Tryndamere ban, and Shallow, who obviously had some solid performances on it so far.
Yeah, I think the way you're kind of putting it as well. I will say, having played into the matchup, when the Rise has phase rush and you charm him into it, he runs at you really fast, but you charm him very, very quickly. I discovered this last night. So you got to be very careful with when you're throwing in that charm. If he decides to go with the phase rush, he might of course go with the unsealed spellbook. It could be either or, but the Jax has been locked in. Pretty decent counter into the Graves, but I have seen in the early stages that the Jax struggles quite a bit, and we have seen some decent solo kills here for the Graves if he can find the right trading pattern.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, once the lane gets longer and the Jax can run you down, it's good. And also you're playing into like 3 auto attackers, so it has value there. But Graves is fine in the early game. Mid jungle, I think BLG have the edge here. I think this is the first time with it. Well, actually no, because last game they had an edge, but we saw them not really deliver on that. But Eternal Rise, really strong in the 2v2, should have prior, should be able to rotate easily with that Realm Warp. And then the bot lane, I do think the fact that the Nautilus is on the side of FPX does give some favor at shutting down Doggo, but ultimately LWX, him and Shallow Who need to be really performing. I think particularly the Jinx, right? Because this BLG lineup is going to be beefcakes. Beefcakes on beefcakes on beefcakes. Everyone on their team is going to have like 3,000 health or something late game plus, because they're all going to be building tanky items. And as a result, you kind of need your Jinx to be able to free fire to cut them down, because Ahri not exactly the best at taking down tanks, right? Especially in the later stages.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I think mid jungle is going to be a bit of a battle, but I favor towards BLG, and if they can get some momentum going in the side lanes, that will be positive. But the thing is, if they don't find momentum in the side lanes, I think early game FPX's side lanes naturally will win out and will have an advantage.
I tend to agree, and we're going to get ourselves pumped up and get some energy going. It's the last game of the day before we jump into our Saturday and Sunday weekend games. FPX looking to get themselves up to 5 and 7, with BLG looking to move themselves back up to the upper echelon of 8 and 4. Both these teams desperate for this win. For BLG, it could mean more buys. For FPX, it could even just mean playoffs. There's so much at stake here for both of these sides. Inshallah, who will walk into Breathe, and they will know that their little bit of a 5-man stack in topside will not work out this time.
The game 3 cheese, right? Everyone's had a long day. You're all weathered out. You just like, I just want to walk to lane and get some sneaky shenanigans going on. But ultimately, you see FPX not really find anything there. Now, so we talk about, we do have Aftershock coming out from the Nautilus and Glacial Augment from the Leona. And to talk about this is kind of important. So Glacial Augment's kind of needed for the Leona because, you know, there's a lot of stuns on their team, and it's expected LWX will take Cleanse, right? The thing with Cleanse is obviously very good against Leona, but useless against Glacial Augment, right? So often, if you cleanse the stun, you might still have to flash to get out of the slow field, which is why it's so powerful. But on the other side, you know, Nautilus doesn't need Glacial Augment as much as we see it a lot, and it's definitely nice. Him having Aftershock just means if he does go in, you know, up close and personal to the Leona, he's not going to get, like, outmatched in tankiness, because Leona, just Leona alone, ignoring Keystones compared to Nautilus, is far, far tankier thanks to a W.
Yeah, I think that's the best way you can put it, just the tanky stats as well. Say as well, you know, yes, the Aftershock is there, but can be stolen by the subjugate. You go in as a Nautilus, as we can just see them here. It's just going to be supportal combat for that brush control, but as I was saying,
yeah,
the
that's
subjugate
something to know is that it's kind of a weird thing that you're going Aftershock when there's a bundle on the other side who can steal away the stats. It does kind of indicate to me that this is very much for laning, and you can see Hung playing very aggressive already in the laning phase.
Yeah, recognizing that he can just keep throwing out these dredge lines and try and whittle down Crisp as much as he possibly can while there is no W passive. As you can see now, Clid will recognize that he's already on top of a ward, so his jungle pathing shall be spotted out. Way on the Trundle, though, much quicker clear here for the Trundle. The Troll King is absolutely absurd with how quickly he can get through to the jungle.
You say that, but that's because he did his blue side, and now he's on his red side, which is notoriously horrific for Trundle. Because Raptors is such a pain. You have no AoE. And then Krugs as well isn't really a fun time. So it's kind of like, you know when you're eating food and you start with the nice stuff and you leave like the vegetables to last. That is literally what Weiwei's done here.
It's like trying to like eat a piece of chicken with like chopsticks. You're like easy, and then you try to eat like some rice and it just keeps falling apart. You're just like, no, come back. And you start picking them up one by one. You decide it's taking forever. But luckily enough there, Shallahu, the observers did not believe in you, but we did, as we now see junglers are going to find each other as Hong now moves over. They're actually going to make this a 3v2 now in favor of FPX. They're going to flash in. Fofo has to flash away. That was critical. If he gets hit by that dredge line, there was a third stack for Clade. He would have gotten the knock up.
Yeah, would have been certain death there, but a good trade in the end, right? Pressure lost from the side of FPX by moving Hung up here. And on top of that, it's 2 summoners for 1. So I think overall, BLG have to navigate that one. And now they'll move down towards the spot side scuttle, be able to secure it. And wait, he's going to look in the enemy jungle, but won't actually find anything here. So not too much to be gained.
according to you, with the single target camps, he doesn't want to find anything anyway. So, you know, it works that way as well. But he looks like he's going to try and maybe just jump onto LWX. Gets caught out by the minions. So LWX, sadly for him, though, is going to have to fully forfeit. No, LWX, you saw him. You knew he was coming, and you're going to have to try and survive this as best you possibly can. They are going to put Chris underneath the turret, who almost goes down. But first blood goes over to Wei, but he gets traded back. Care did have the TP. I feel like FPX thought they had an opportunity there to try and maybe turn that into more, but still a kill for a kill.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Leona's so tanky with flash as well, and especially as once you're on a tower, you're kind of trapped on the glacial augment. It just felt like a little bit overzealous from LWX to stay there, very greedy. And I know backup was coming, but, you know, there was time to kind of wait. You could have just backed away, walked up with your Nautilus and been safe. And now, pretty significantly behind his chest, you can see Chris just walks up, lands a stun. LWX is trapped on the slow field for a while. And only now, after LWX is already dead, do we see the reinforcements come in. So it's a 1-for-1 trade, but you can see LWX losing out a fair bit in terms of the farm department.
He has to go mid, pick up some of that wave to try and mitigate it off, because like I said, he is about 15 or so CS behind, so he's going to try and hold this until basically Ari joins back in. So we'll get a little bit of a solo XP as well, so not too bad as Hong just hanging around, but Wei shadowing the big old Nautilus, and now might find himself in a little bit of trouble. Did not get the pillar just beside the corridor, so isn't going to quite catch him out, but now it's going to be a full 4v4, as we can see now. Maybe Wei going to go down. No, they're going to take away the jungle, as Wei so close to going down. Now Jinx can get excited. Fofo is still doing plenty of damage as Hong tries to keep himself alive, but it's a 2-for-1 trade in favor of BLG. They are starting to pick up the pace in this early game.
And I love to say it, right? We talked about this mid-jungle, the confidence just to go in there, right? And then in these jungle fights, Doggo is so threatening on the Zeri. Jinx really needs a lot of time to ramp up. And I talked about, I want this Jinx to be fed for FPX. I want her to be able to get like a Lord Dominic's, get an IE, be able to cut through all this beef on the enemy team. And she's not really being given windows. And you can see here, FPX are like waiting. They're like, okay, give it a bit of time. Okay, now we can fight this 4 members strong. But Chris so much damage here with the W up, absorbs a lot. Wei gets low, yes, but then obviously his passive allows him to heal, so he survives quite a bit. And the extended fight, Fofo and Doggo step forwards. They can just rotate cooldowns pretty much endlessly, whereas Care, not too useful once he's used his burst combo. At the end of the day, it's able to close the fight out. And now we can take stock of the game. So 20 CS lead between the AD carries. And critically, they both have culls, but Doggo started the game with his culls. So a significant advantage there as well.
Yeah, we see Wei now going to be able to try and move forward into this jungle. Doesn't have flash, though, so needs to be a little bit careful. However, with Klid now taking away his wolves, it's not going to be able to try and take this in time. The smite should be there, and Fofo roaming up as well gives him a little bit of extra security. With the Realm Warp available, you got to be careful on this top side. The pillar with the Realm Warp can lead to so much absurd amount of annoying CC. You get slowed by the pillar, you get hit by the rune prison. There's so many ways to lock you up here as Xiaolahu. He is just going to soak up that wave as it goes pretty damn even in the top side. Hongo.
Imagine how cool it'd be if you could put your pillar in the Realm Warp and it got teleported too.
That'd be really stupid. But as you see, I'm going to talk myself. I'm going to stop talking about the Realm Warps because Doggo gets himself another kill on the Hong. That was just an easy. They just knew where he was and he didn't know where they were.
Yeah, this is one of the things the Nautilus-Leona matchup is. If Leona gets up in your face, you kind of lose, right? Just able to lock you down. Leona is very tanky. Also, the stun is on a 5-second cooldown, so she kind of checks most melee champions in that situation. The way I've seen it played is where if you dredgeline Leona as she Zenith blades you, like as she E's, you can keep her at a safe distance. And generally what this composition, this bot lane of FPX want to do is they want to kite the enemy bot lane in the 2v2. They want to keep distance. LWX has range advantage. Hung never really wants to get in melee range of Chris. And so BLG getting the jump on him just means they can instantly burst him down. And now looking towards that dragon. You can see, look at the difference between these two bot laners already. Over 1,000 gold lead for the Zeri. 2-0-2, and it's a Zeri. We've seen the crazy things you can do in the later stages.
Especially considering your auto attack doesn't actually need vision. You could just keep spamming it and hoping that you kind of hit your target. So it is very, very annoying to deal with a Zeri the longer this game goes on, especially if they can put themselves behind a wall or put, on a crevice where you can't really reach them with, kind of the standard Nautilus CC. And for LWX and for Hong, it's going to be a very long game for them to try and become relevant in this one now. 2-0-2, full kill participation here for Doggo as he gets himself pretty much perfect little move, almost perfect towards the side. And that's another thing that people don't realize. Having that extra little movement speed gets you out on the map quicker. It means the resets come in a lot better for you, and you can get yourself on the map a lot faster.
Plus, it looks cool, and you have fun doing it, right? Let's be real.
It's fun. It looks cool until you mess it up, and then it's just like, well, now I just feel silly.
Yeah, that's kind of
you go like you go 3 feet forward, and it's like, well, I'm sorry.
So Herald up and available. I think definitely a potential priority for both teams. It looks like Hung coming off a reset now with his level 6 is in prime position to move over, in all honesty, having that ultimate, the Riptide, available. But I think he's just heading back towards bot lane, so this gives an opportunity for BLG. Not only have they already gotten plates on the bot side, but also they could look towards the Herald if they want.
It's a 1,500 gold lead now for Doggo. This is just getting absurd. I think more than that now. We're getting up close
the
to
death charge is his ult. His Riptide is
yeah,
E.
there you go. But this is becoming a big issue. And BLG, they could just hard force the issue now. You have the Solar Flare. You also have the ultimate from Zeri as well. You can see FPX wary of this, sending down their jungler and mid just to cover the potential of a dive.
And this is what we want to see from this combination from BLG, right? You pick the Trundle because it matches the Xin Zhao and can duel him in the early game, and you pick the Rise for these potential roams, and just Fofo moving down there puts so much pressure. It means that FPX can't move towards the Herald, and there's still plates being picked up. Doggo is just getting these plates in this matchup. 1,500 gold ahead already. Massive disaster. And this top lane matchup, you know, we were talking about this a little bit before, how Graves, from what we've seen in the LPL, has the advantage early in the matchup. Breathe has been handling extremely well, constantly jumping in on Shalahoo, forcing him to dash away and not really be able to trade back. So managing it pretty effectively so far.
Yeah, managed to get very, very well. And it's about a 2,000 gold lead. I will say it's a 2,000 gold lead almost exclusively on Doggo right now. He's got about 1,600. He's a little bit by himself, and he'll be just fine.
Yeah, what a champion. Stand at the wall.
Mobility creep! Yay!
I feel like the next champion's just gonna like Kane can, where like you can go
just have like the walls
permanently. It's like a new ghost champion, just like, yeah, terrain. Who cares? Just glides everywhere.
Honestly, wouldn't be a bad idea. You know?
Yes, it would. Right? I'm complaining about this.
No. I think alongside everybody else who's listening to this game, agree that you are absolutely correct. Get the devs on right now. We need a perma ghost champion that's just ghosting around the map, and nothing means anything. You can't condemn. They're the ultimate counter to the Vayne mains. That's what they're gonna do now. It'd be great. It'd be terrible. It'd be great.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like, especially when Kane gets like the assassin of all the blue
Shadow Kane,
man,
Shadow Kane.
He's perma in the walls.
Shadow Kane is upsetting, but we're not going to talk about any more about a champion that's not in the game. We're going to go talk about champions that are in the game. We are starting to see some first items being picked up. Triforce already being picked up here by Doggo alongside those Berserker Greaves. He is going to be a very, very powerful foe, but I will say LWX picking up the Kraken Slayer does keep him relatively in tow, but he's 2,000 gold down, effectively on his own.
There's no Krakens on the enemy team either, so...
I mean, that's an interesting one. We don't have any Kraken champions. I mean, we
like
have Kraken champions, but we don't have any Kraken
Dude,
champions.
I feel like Cho'Gath, when he has the Loch Ness skin, looks a little bit... Probably the closest.
Probably the closest.
But, yeah,
what
Dragons...
What would a Kraken champion do?
I don't know, dude.
You sounded so offended that I asked that. It's just, why are you asking me? Jesus.
I'm here to complain about champions, not design them.
But you can design about them and then complain that people don't understand that... You understand what they're going for, but we'll say what PLG are going to go for is FPX now find themselves hovering around this dragon. They would love to be able to stop this stacking, and it looks like BLG just aren't in a position to contest this. So despite the advantage that BLG have built themselves in bot side, it is FPX who will be able to pick up themselves the second dragon, and that's a pretty significant win here for the side of FPX.
Especially the amount of pressure that was in favor of BLG on the bot side. Feel like it should have been just a bit of a no-brainer, but it's not that important, right? Dragon apiece. You do see that on the top side, Weiwei's instead opted to allocate resources into this Jax, who already has a Blade of the Ruined King finished, by the way. Big item on this patch. And we're on 12.4, so it is the buff version. Just a ton of percentage HP damage. And they actually can probably just look for the tier 2. On the other side, LWX is getting some much needed gold, but they won't even get a single tower. And he loses cleanse.
Yep, and he loses cleanse, so it's going to be pretty much all going for BLG. As we can see now, Shallahu going to find a big old trundle in his face as he goes get him down the subjugate, and they're just going to take him down, no problems whatsoever. Jax is still pushing alone in this top side, and out of nowhere, there's a 5,000 gold lead.
Yep.
Oh, wait.
Nice flash.
Nice flash. Also, before you go on, before we talk about the replay, I have been told by some people on my messaging apps, sponsored by Sokame, but there's a Lowy as a Kraken-esque champion, and also Vel'Koz has tentacles, so whether or not we want to count him, he's all actually, yeah, Vel'Koz is just a Kraken. He's got like a big old like beak and stuff. So there you go. I was wrong.
There we
but
go.
Anyway, FPX are in a hole.
Yeah, substantial goal lead. I feel like the proactivity is good, and they kind of won across the map, right? They weren't able to dive bot lane. They weren't even able to finish off the tower for FPX. BLG get 2 towers top. This Jax is now monster fed, 1,500 gold up, despite the fact that they are even in CS. Wei obviously had a great old time doing well in this matchup. Fofo marginally up, but has had that impact, that threat of being able to roam to the sides. BLG are just massively snowballing this game, and now I'll go with a bit more alone time. I think you can just take this tower.
It's a little bit more difficult than that, I would imagine, especially when you have got the Tiamat that would just proc
this tower.
No, you didn't quite hear me.
He'll get it on the next wave, okay?
I was gonna say he'll proc it under the tower. You're right, though. He will just walk up and just take that tower. And speaking of just taking what they want, I will not question you anymore. You are clearly the god of information, as we can see now. Crisp getting a little bit of damage on him. That's a 2-man Everfrost, but no real follow-up here. Weiwei's by himself. He has no flash. He has nowhere to go. LWX picks himself up a little bit of a mini shutdown as Care goes over the wall. Shella, who follows him, and then Care says, oh, I'm sorry, buddy, I'm leaving. I actually just came here to say hi. And now they all back themselves away. FPX, they find an opportunity because BLG just kind of gifted to them. And Crisp, oh, he's going to be fine. No, he's not. Lollipop, lollipop, boo, lolly, 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 lollipop. That's 2 kills.
That was stone cold. BLG leaving their man behind and just letting Wei go down. And objective bounties in play, so more of an ability to come back for FPX. The critical thing, right, is that Breathe is just farming the side lane. And for some reason, BLG don't understand that means they shouldn't be fighting. We're going to replay off it, so really aggressively pushing in here. Going way too far forward. Can't really commit too hard onto the Xin Zhao because, well, he's Xin Zhao. The Blast Cone respawns, and then Doggo, ice cold, leaves his team behind. Fofo has to flash. Wei goes down, and then this extended play, right? Just trying to, like, toy with him, poke with him. Crisp, you didn't need to walk this way, man. Felt confident because of the Blast Cone, but then caught out of it by the Dredge line.
While that was happening, we go up to our nature view of Jackson at top side, just trying to see if he can get anything more. I actually don't like the play of having Breathe up in top lane. There's 2 towers already gone. I'd rather to see him in bot lane, which he is now, but with Xiaolahu now having the support of Hung, it is going to be a pretty easy trade back, and all of a sudden, the gold lead has fluctuated once again. It's only 3,000, was 5, so a 2,000 swing in favor of FPX. However, with the Rift Herald now being spawned, and 50 seconds till Dragon, BLG will take up that objective, and we might see a fight around this Dragon now in 45 seconds.
There's potential for it, and I feel like Breathe, you know, if he hits that 2-item spike, will be very strong. I don't think he has quite enough gold now. Herald in mid, they can just throw that down to look to contest priority. He's got to be a bit careful. Potentially threatening some charms. And I talked about this before. There isn't that much CC to be cleansed on the side of FPX, so Doggo hasn't opted for cleanse himself. Does mean that the charm has a lot of value if you can connect. But you are up against Zeri, notoriously hard to hit with skill shots because, you know, he's fast.
She is, in fact, very fast. As we can see now with the Rift held in hand, Wei will push in towards this mid lane. Doesn't have a wave to work with just yet, but 5 seconds till that dragon spawns. No vision whatsoever here for BLG. So if they try to walk up to try and contest this, they are going to line up and actually dropping the Rift held down. We're going to see the flash forward, the charm goes in, and Wei is dead. They drop down the Rift held, but the Jinx is already getting excited. They're going to try and use Doggo on this area to make this one work for them, but Crisp is almost so low. They find the charm, and it's a shutdown onto this area. Now Fofo's in a lot of trouble. He'll be zapped and taken out of nowhere. We are looking only at a 1,500 gold lead for the side of BLG, and they have lost control of this map.
Yeah, and honestly, Doggo talked about the mobility, talked about the movement speed, get caught by a charm. Had flash available as well, so did have a tool to avoid that. But ultimately, as you said, Jinx starts to get reset, the momentum comes in. FPX, they get so much off the back of a takedown, right? They get extra charges on the Ahri ultimate, they get the resets coming in for the Jinx, they get excited. And we'll see a replay off that. So just really nice play from FPX. They know that the Herald's going to get committed mid for the priority, so they hard burst down there. Get excited comes, and look, stopwatch and the Zin's ultimate blocks so much damage from Doggo, and then Care finds this beautiful charm, catching Doggo off guard, deletes the Zeri, and without the Zeri, the team fight kind of just falls apart for BLG.
Yeah, no. Fofo recognized he was dead there. No real reason to try and not fight, as he might as well try and take down the Jinx. But now it's a 2-item Jinx. We talked about the advantage that this Zeri had. It was about 30 or 40 CS. It's now 20 CS, and it's only about not even an item advantage. Actually, the Zeri is behind now at this point, because it's just this is disastrous for the side of BLG. They're still technically ahead in the gold department, but the dragons are now no longer in their favor. I just feel like all the resources you funnel into this Jax is great, but it's not leading to anything.
Yeah, the problem is, right, is the advantage with this Jax is nice, but as much as he's valuable in team fights, we haven't seen him join team fights, right? And he's up against a Graves in the side lane. I feel like Graves is not that easy a target to dive. Like, he has so much weight. He can just one-shot the waves, essentially. And if you don't connect your stun with him, you're going to have a bit of a rough time chasing him under the tower. So I feel like it's not like Breeze can just march bot and take structures after structure after structure. So maybe that advantage BLG has isn't really going to be too relevant and show up. Time being, FPX looking good. And critically Care on this Ahri, 3-0-3. We saw that game one, very subdued into the Azir. But really, I think over the course of the series, it's looked better and better.
Really has felt, like this has been a solid debut for him, and really working very well with the team. Already sitting now on 2 items. I will say Fofo with that Fimbulwinter is going to be very tanky, but see the power of the charm coming in for this Ahri. Why we love seeing this pick. You land the charm, you land the Everfrost, or either vice versa. It doesn't really matter, and you're just dead to rights as we look down towards all the items.
When LWX gets low doms and has the Giant Slayer passive, oh my lord, man, he's going to do so much value. So much value. I don't know if he'll go for a third or we'll grab Naive first, but man, like everyone, like it's such a rare thing that everyone on the enemy team is like stacking HP. Like across the board, you have bulky targets, because typically at least like the AD carry isn't going to be with Zeri build. You build Titanic, you build Triples, you end up pretty tanky, and way looking a lot less tanky by the minute. And you can see both Jax and Trundle building armor items, understandably, right? It's 380 champions of 1 AP, but it does mean if Care lands charm, no matter who is, they get really bursted out.
They get so much damage put down on top of them. If Care lands that charm, and adding that in with the Horizon focus is going to do so much, especially at the max range. So we'll see how this one develops now. It looks like it is going to be the Infinity Edge rather than the Lord Dominic's Regards here for LWX. 2 minutes until that dragon spawns, but maybe they just try and go for this Baron. But FPX had already covered themselves and said, look, we already have a ward here. We know what we can cover. And BLG, they are hard committing to this 1-3-1 style, but I feel like FPX have the tools to jump on them to try and just mitigate it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're not getting enough out of it, right? Like, the farm advantage aren't really being accrued. I think FX is doing a good job of catching the waves. And no structures have been taken since we had those 2 towers top right with the Herald. We had that 1 tower bot because Doggo was just applying the pressure consistently. Other than that, we haven't really seen too much come from this 1-3-1. And it's just getting the game ramping up over time. Jinx is picking up the more items. It looks like it is going to be the Infinity Edge third. We're a minute away from the next dragon. It would be the third for FPX. And at this point, the gold lead, like we had a 5k gold lead earlier in this game. We're now far later in the game, and it's only just over 1,000, right? Significantly less relevant. And I think FPX are in with a good shot. It really comes down to BLG, comes down to Doggo, right? I feel on this Zeri. Definitely a pick that can have a big carry performance. Breathe as well, level 15 on the Jax. Looks like he's opting to join in now.
Yeah, he's looking to try and make this one. If he can land a counter-strike, get it on top of LWX, it could mean the difference in this entire game. As Breathe taking a lot of harassment and already down to about 1/3 of his HP, and they use the locket.
Not sure that's the impact you're hoping to get from your Jax, I'll be honest. It does have TP, but I think they're actually going to try and stop his reset. So, yeah, this is really bad.
This is very bad. And also, you try to commit people down towards that bot side to try and maybe catch out Shallow and BLG. They're looking a little bit scattered. They're not quite sure where they want to be. Right now, they're saying, right, let's go for this dragon. But using the Pillar of Filth, they recognize everyone's backing away. It feels like FPX have the run of the mill here.
Yeah, I mean, like, Breathe has to TP in if they want to contest this.
They are going to.
Have delayed presence, and it's already gone.
Yeah, it's dead, done, dusted, nowhere for them to go. Shallow gets himself over. They will get the flash out of Clid and the hook away from Hung. They are backing themselves away. You do not get the team fight you want. And sole point now for FPX. BLG are just watching this game fall away from them from their very hands.
And critically, in this situation, you trade your TP to their flash, and they get the dragon as well. But critically, Breathe now TP-less. The next 4 minutes, I believe, is cooldown after 14 minutes. So now you don't have that side lane pressure that we were talking about. Breathe can't just overcommit because there is that threat of Baron when you're on the other side of the map. So massive, massive disadvantage for BLG.
This game has just been, this series has been such a, for lack of a better term, unconvincing from both teams. I feel like both sides have looked good and bad in their respective wins. And in Game 3, we saw great things from BLG. We've seen bad things from BLG and vice versa. Great things from FPX, bad things from FPX. This doesn't look like two teams that I'll be very confident going into the playoffs, but it is an oh so important series now for both of these sides. As we can see now, Weiwei just roaming over with Chris. They're just so afraid to try and take these wards because they know that if they get caught by a charm, they will just get 100-0. There's no other choice about it because now you have got the third item onto your Jinx. You are 3-item Jinx on this point of the game. This game is getting harder and harder for BLG and for FPX. They just seem to be getting much more out of these trades.
And honestly, I feel like at this point, FPX feel very strong, right? Don't get me wrong. But 4 items for the Jinx. I want to see that Lord Dominic's. I'm so hyped for it. I've been talking all game about the value. Look at all the armor. Look, 3 Wardens males on the enemy team already. Oh, Shallow's found Fofo.
Yeah, he has. There is a last whisper there, so Fofo's little bit of stacking armor won't do a huge amount, but Fofo still very, very tanky. Shallow would have loved to land at that end of the line to try and maybe just bring him down a little bit more, but got to be so careful. And I just want to kind of bring this back up the draft before we really see any kind of significant moves here. That, oh, cool little interaction there. The W from Zeri will go through the Trundle Pillar and make it a big old AoE. But you put this Jax as your counter pick. This was the thing you wanted to go for. And yes, it's done well. You put a lot of resources into it, but not quite able to get him there on the recall. But it hasn't made the same level of impact.
No, and the thing is, it's like, even picks like Gwen is obviously exceptional in team. Gwen's just exceptional, right? I don't know what I'm saying in team fights. Camille still holds up in team fights pretty well. Fiora is a champion who's a bit rougher, but Jax, like, he has value, but he's not exactly the best team fighter. And I think he's struggling to find a way in, a way to be relevant. But for the time being, right, you actually see Care on this side of the map applying pressure, getting that tier 1 tower. Yes, FPX do lose their mid tier 1, but gold closer than it has been for a long time. 700 gold difference. It was a 5k gold lead for BLG at one point here. All these resources funneled on Breathe, not really showing up too much. And the problem is, right, in this situation, you have quite a short range composition against this Jinx. If you cannot get on this Jinx, I think you just lose. I think it is that simple. Like, Jinx is such a problem, and you have, like, you know, the smoke screen for the Graves, the disruption from Hung, you have the charms from Care, you have Clid with his ultimate, like, so much to disrupt and slow you down and just block you from getting to the Jinx. So in a front to back, I really think FPX are favored and BLG are going to struggle. They need to find creative ways to get in this backline. I need to see Breathe coming in on a TP flank. I need to see Doggo sliding over a wall, doing like a trick shot or something. I don't know. But just straight up, front and back, going to be a bad time. And Shallow, who has now finished that Lord Dominic's, love to see it. So much value.
Yeah, and they have that for Shallow, who you mentioned all the stacking of the HP, but also I like the fact that he's gone with it versus the stopwatch for LWX, kind of delaying that item spike for him on the 4 items, because he knows that he is the carry. He knows that if they can just survive with the extra range you get, you will just have so much. And now in a minute's time, we will see the Infernal Soul be contested. FPX have themselves a perfect opportunity where they have control of this area, and it's going to be BLG who have to walk forward into them. That's exactly what FPX want.
Yeah, and it is Souls, so like you can't just give this one up. You have to try and force a way in. They have ways they can cheat it, like the Realm Warp. It's very risky. You can just put yourself in an uncomfortable position. Just try to clear out some vision. It is an Infernal map, which is fortunate, right? Because you see, they can just kind of walk around. Instead of being forced into that one entrance that's being contested, they can just cut through where the new gaps have opened up. It makes it easier to approach. But now the setup's coming in. Breathe. Could be a big factor if you can find a flank play. I'm looking at LWX. I'm looking at Xiaolahu. These two big backline carries for FPX.
Here we go. Solar Flare comes out. They're going to land the hook down as well as the Crescent Guard as they try and go into this, but the Leona is already dead. The Jinx is getting resets. They're not quite able to get Breed on the backside, and Wei Wei has fallen. Doggo's going forward, but I don't think he can catch up with the rest of them as Fofo going to use the Realm Warp, but eventually falls down. Breed trying to do as much as he can on the backside, but he cannot follow away from the Jinx, who gets so much versus this team. Xiaolahu with the triple kill, and Care was perfect at distracting the enemy team.
And you know what that was? A front to back. And FPX absolutely crushed it. So much damage soaked by the front line. They get the resets. Momentum comes in. Care with some beautiful charms, honestly, in that one. And then Xiaolahu, Lord Dom's in pocket. Giant Slayer. Well, I don't see any giants on my screen anymore. And you see at the start of the fight, right? Clid obviously gets engaged on. Pops the ultimate though with that. And the aftershock from home. So much damage soaked. And then return, Crisp just gets nuked. They start pumping damage out. Wei Wei ends up going down, and Doggo and Fofo are like, we have to try carry. But a beautiful charm on a Fofo buys him space, and Xiaolahu is just like in melee range, bullying this Rise. At this point, Breed goes down. Doggo is the last man standing, but again, a flawless charm from Care catches him out. And you know, as Zeri, we talked about it. There was a ramping Zeri with all that movement speed, still managed to catch Doggo out with that skill shot. Beautiful.
Yeah, really was. I will give a little shout out to the Infernal Drake there. A little assist there. Kind of knocks off the Jack, stops him from using any other abilities like his Leap Strike or his Counter Strike. So sadly for him, he does end up going down. And now you've got yourself a 3-1-7 Jinx, a 4-0-7 Ahri. This is a massive game for Care on his debut series. And now with the Baron alongside that Infernal Soul, I don't think BLG can defend this. They're so short range.
Yeah, and they don't have the wave clear really to work with unless Rise can get up, but he's just not being allowed. Now, they might look for an engage here.
Here we go. It's a bit scrappy, but they're going to go in. Crisp trying to make something work as Care goes into stasis. Crisp also following him in. Will fall down the Clid. As you can see, there's a Trundle going down. This area is dead, and this series is done. FPX put their stamp down and say, we are a playoff team, and we will be fighting for those last spots at the end of the split.
They claim a critical win against BLG, who were 3 wins ahead of them on the standings. Much needed. FPX on the borderline of playoff qualification, and they managed to keep their hopes alive, keep themselves in a comfortable position to contest those spots. Definitely still need some wins to go before the end of the split, but FPX deliver. And credit to Care, the new addition to the roster. Definitely felt like he started slow and over the course of the series ramped up, but a really solid performance on Ahri to round out the series. Great to see from him.
Absolutely, and there's FPX putting themselves up to 5-7. BLG will drop down to 7-5. Now, if you look at the kind of standings, which we'll have a look at later, but BLG are dropping themselves down to the likes of Rare Adam, JD Gaming. They are no longer a part of that top 5 conversation that we bring ourselves in with. And for FPX, it was a tough series. This is a tough map, but good smiles, good energy from this team, because they know that taking a game or a series against a team above you in the standings is huge for your chances of playoffs.
Yeah, and just for context, before this series, FPX were in 11th. Top 10 makes playoffs, right? I don't think this win will have necessarily put them into that 10th place spot, but they need every win they can get. And going up against the likes of BLG, it's one of those ones where they're higher than you in the standing. You feel like you're punching up, feel like they should be favored, but they delivered. And with the new addition to the roster, it kind of looked like they had new life in them. I don't think that Care made all this difference. Don't get me wrong. I don't think one single roster change did all this, but it's clear that the team has been proactive in thinking, what is going wrong? Why are we losing? The Baron setups were better, right? And in the games where they were ahead, they really knew how to run away with the game and find the momentum. So big positives on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of positive, reinforcement coming in for FPX. It's always good when you make a substitution like taking Gory out and putting Care in, and you come out with a win. It is always a pretty good feeling for you, and great for Care as well. Care coming in from the LDL and saying, look, your first game is going to be against Fofo, who we argued was probably a top 3 mid laner in 2021. This is a very difficult setup, behind the likes of Scout or not even Scout, I should say Doomby and Knight from last year. So this is a very, very good test for him. And I don't think, again, like you said, it was the be-all and end-all for FPX winning this series, but I do feel like there was a lot more positive change, and they felt like they had a little bit more cohesion with where they wanted to take their game, especially with having a mid laner who felt like they were on the same page with.
Yeah, and it felt like the coordination. It really felt like it was a glow up of the course of the series because game one, FPX looked dead, right? They really just looked like they had no impact in that one and just slowly lost the game. Game two took a lead, completely ran away with it, and then game three, it just really felt like the team had warmed up. The team fights were kind of firing all cylinders. Yes, there was that substantial lead for BLG at the start, which is why I find it even more impressive, right? Getting a lead and winning with a lead, a lot of teams can do that. But the fact that we saw them fall behind but remain headstrong, find the ideal circumstances for their composition to flourish. And like, look at Breathe on this Jax, right? So many resources put into him. 4259 damage. Shallow and LWX coming up huge on these AD carries.
Yeah, just nothing. Nothing was this Jax counter pick, and we kind of saw a telegraph from the word go basically for the side of FPX, where they said like, look, we're gonna go and pick this. We're gonna ban the Tryndamere. We're gonna look to try and pick up the Graves. Is a very standard kind of setup for them to kind of go into the late game with, but the Jax didn't do anything. And I think that when you're getting to those stages of the game, I think right up until that final fight, he was probably maybe 0-1-0. Like he just didn't do anything, and that feels like a wasted draft in my opinion. I feel like he ended 1-2-0. I think was the end of the scoreline.
I feel like this is the sort of game where you wish that Jax was like a Gwen. I'll be honest. Like you wish you had this pick where you fund all those resources, and not only is she strong in the side lane, but she's just a monster in the team fights. And the thing is, like, we saw when they finally decided to have Breathe during the team fights, and then like he got like chunked out over the wall, and it was just kind of like, oh well, that's where all our hard spent money has gone towards, right? We invested heavily and it just took an absolute tumble. So it's kind of rough. But also, like you say on the other side, Doggo on the Zeri was really fed, and it felt like he just didn't find a way in. He got outmatched. And I think I will say front to back compositions like the one FPX had are typically easier to play than what the opposition had. But like, it still came down to just kind of poor execution from them and stellar team fighting from the side of FPX. And I just love the fact that, they knew they had the Zinzao, they knew how the Nautilus with Aftershock could soak a ton of damage, and they played around that really effectively. But Care also, great utilization of the charm on the Ahri.
Yeah, very good debut here for Care as FPX take themselves their win and go up to 5-7. Again, we'll talk about the bracket a little bit later, but cannot overstate now, how important this win is. And for BLG, it goes back to what we were talking about. They are lesser than the sum of their parts. This team on paper should be doing better, shouldn't be looking this disjointed, shouldn't be looking this disconnected from each other. And it just felt like look, watching, a coordinated team versus a solo queue team. And, I say that with the biggest, kind of heart of endearment and saying like, these are still amazing players. They still all have pop-off moments. But as a team, it's just not coming together, and you're running out of time. You got 4 series left.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that I still think BLG on with a decent chance of like maintaining their spot in playoffs, right? I don't think anyone's really a doubt of that. They're not locked in by all means, but I still think they'll probably make it. That doesn't really matter. Like at the end of the day, it's not about making playoffs. It's about having a good run when you're in playoffs. And in their current form, BLG wouldn't. So really need to sort of see more from them coming out in these last few series of the split to get a convincing performance in playoffs.
Yeah, well, we're going to be sending it over for an interview with Xiaolao Hu after his victory.
Hello everyone, welcome to post-game interview in Shanghai studio. This is Christina. Now we're joined by Xiaolao, who is a top liner from FunPlus Phoenix. Congratulations on your win, and you just stopped your losing streak, get this reverse sweep of best of 3. How do you feel right now? 让我们欢迎 FunPlus 上单选手小老虎来到赛后采访。恭喜你们今天让1追2拿下比赛胜利。想问一下，终结连败之后，特别是在今天 BO3 翻盘之后，现在感觉怎么样呢？
就感觉特别不容易嘛，然后大家也开赛就比较紧张嘛，然后就感谢队友扛住压力，然后让1追2吧，谢谢队友的表现吧。
Actually, before today's game, we are under too much pressure, and thanks to my teammates, they performed super well today, and I feel super happy about getting this win. Nextly, I want to touch on your roster, your mid laner Carry. Care, this player made his debut on the LPL stage, and what's your evaluation on his play style, and how does he gel in his play style into your whole team to make sure your team are on the same page？ 接下来想问一下有关于今天人员变动的问题。你们今天的首发中单 Care 选手也是在赛季中后期加入了队伍嘛？你觉得他的游戏风格是怎么样的呢？以及在赛季中期加入到你们队伍之后，他是如何把他自己的游戏风格融入全队，能确保你们步调一致，然后在今天拿下比赛的胜利？
Care 的加入就我们就因为语言也就更流畅了嘛，然后大家沟通的也比较方便，然后也清楚，然后说打就打，然后就打的就风格就是该打的时候我们就敢打嘛，就不会畏畏缩缩的。
Actually, when Killer joined to the starting lineup today, we feel like we have better communication and our communication became more fluent than before. And maybe we don't be hasty in the team fights to make a lot of team fights. Don't be hasty and don't think about too much. Next, I want to touch on the game one. Maybe it's a pity that for you guys to losing game one. So, any feedback or adjustment did you guys make after losing game one? 接下来想要问一下，今天第一局失利之后，你们做了哪些反馈和调整呢？
第一局我们前期线上也有经济领先，然后发现到了打团的时候，我们感觉我们的阵容打团打不赢对面嘛，然后就做了一下阵容上的调整，就好打了。
Even though we got a good lead in the laning phase, but we feel like we didn't get a better advantage in team fight because maybe it is because of our draft. So we made a little bit change in BMP strategies in game 2 and game 3. Yeah, you guys showed a better momentum in game 2 and game 3. Especially, I want to touch on the last team fight around the Dragon Cell in game 3. How did you guys communicate and manage to get this win and ended the game? 说到第二三局呢，你们确实在改变阵容之后呢，打的也是跟之前第一局可能展现出了完全不一样的势头。我最关心的还是在第三局的时候，最后一波龙魂团战，你们发挥的非常出色，并且在那波团战取胜之后，也是顺利的获得了比赛的胜利。可以跟我们分享一下当时那一波团战你们是如何决策沟通的呢吗？
我有一波回家之前发现小龙还有1分30秒就刷新了嘛，然后下路也有线权，我直接提去下路，然后把线带进对面的塔下嘛，然后我再包过来和我队友汇合，把龙坑占住，然后我们就会变得很好打。
After I recall, I feel like the dragon will respawn in the 1 minute and 30 seconds. So I teleport to the ball lane after I push in the wave. So I just to get together with my teammate into the dragon pit to find a good position to make him take that team fight. In that case, we can win that team fight. Finally, I also touch on the top lane in patch 12.4. After patch 12.4 is coming, maybe there will be change on the bot lane champion. Yes, that is my question. That is my final question. 最后一个问题想要问到的就是12.4版本嘛。现在我们玩到12.4版本之后，对于上路英雄的选择会不会有哪些改变呢？或者你觉得现在12.4版本上单的生态环境是什么样的？
我觉得现在这个版本就上路能出破败的英雄可能就会变得更强一点，然后能出破剑者的也更强一点，然后坦克就属于不能玩的那种吧。
In my opinion, at the patch 12.4, those champions can purchase like Hellbreaker and the Round King will be better, stronger than before. Maybe the tanky champion is weaker than before. So thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations on your win again. 让我们再次感谢我们的小老虎选手来到赛后采访，也再次恭喜 FPX 拿下今天比赛的胜利。Back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Christina. Always good to hear. And I know I like the bluntness of LPL players. It's just like, what do you think about, a very interesting question about like 12.4. How do you think things are going to change? But, I love the way it's just like, yeah, things change. Things are good. Things are bad. But we got to talk about our MVP from game 3. And I'm not quite sure exactly who they said. I believe it was Care. Yes, it is. It is going to be Care with a 509. And great debut there for the mid laner of FPX.
Yeah, I mean, really felt like he ramped up over the course of the series. Game 1, unconvinced. Game 2, not pretty good. Game 3, actually popping off. So credit to him. It's not always easy to come into an LPL team and have a good performance in your first series, but plenty opportunities here where he had the confidence to be a driving force. On a pick like Ari, it's not like you're just sitting back and putting out damage. Like, he was in moments like this, finding these great charms, punishing these carries, and just really setting up the team for success. It was him having agency and capitalizing on it.
Yeah, and you can see in just a lot of these different replays is that he just puts himself between, you know, an angle where they can't really aggress upon. He's putting himself up to the carries. He's moving himself closer. He just gets hit with the solar flare here, so immediately has to go into stasis. But as soon as he comes out, he repositions, gets himself into an advantageous point where he can enable the Jinx or enable his Graves. Either one works either side. And this was just a really, really good win and an important win as well for FPX. We cannot stress how much this is going to help them towards their playoffs, because they're still going to be outside of it. They are down in 11th, I believe, but it is going to help them a lot more. They just need to fix that goal difference, or the goal difference, my God, I'm down to the game difference as they come closer to playoffs.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, if it's one series, right? It's hard to say at this point, but they continue this trajectory. It feels like, you know, they've been in a position where they've got this new mid laner. It feels like the team are playing better in general. They can continue this. I think they're in with a good shot.
Yeah, I think they really are. But if you're only just joining us, you've missed all the action. We'll get you caught up very, very quickly as we look at how today's results went down. We almost had ourselves a full 9-day game, but it was not, or 9-game day, but it was not to be. JDG taking a very surprising win over V5 at our first one. Then LNG almost getting taken down by TT. And of course, we just saw FPX taking down BLG to move themselves up to 5 and 7.
Yeah, so I think the significant one, really, that last series had a lot of impact. And game one, right, of the day, JDG are on like a pretty solid streak at the moment, taking down V5A, massive achievement. And honestly, that series was an absolute banger. So if you did miss it, you should definitely check it out. I know it's obviously earlier on in the day, so might have not been able to tune in, but we see how the standings have panned out. And I feel like we had that moment where teams were pulling away, and it has kind of just got really muddied, because now if you go from Weibo all the way to BLG, there's 2 win difference, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of mad, especially with how few games are left. So really, it just puts more emphasis that like every single game makes such a massive difference. We see FPX with that win. They are now tied in wins with OMG, but due to game difference, they are still not in that top 10, but they're definitely approaching on it and keeping themselves in good stead, and critically keeping themselves away from Ultra Prime and IG, who are on their tails.
Absolutely. There's a lot of teams there waiting up, but we are going to see one of those 2 chasing teams tomorrow as IG take on Anyone's Legends. That will be the second series of the day. That will happen before it will be Weibo looking to continue to be the #1 team in the LPL as they take on LGD. And then our match of the week, the 2021 World Champions versus the 2021 MSI Champions, EDG versus RNG. Huge game.
Yeah, I mean, that one is just going to be a banger, but I feel like, you know, game one, series one's a bit one-sided, but series two is a pretty instrumental one if either AL or IG want to continue their path towards playoffs. So definitely an important fight for the bottom of the standings. But man, that final series, I'm honestly just a little bit sad that I'm not casting tomorrow, because I don't love that one.
It's all right. We'll complain to the schedule maker later.
Yes, we will.
But that is all the time we have for today. We are going to end it here. Of course, if you stuck with us all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. And of course, to everyone behind the scenes, none of this would be possible without them. And of course, Ox, I always have to thank you, because I go a little bit loopy. And towards these longer days, when we get into six game series as such, towards the later stages. But thank you all for joining us. If you're going to see us tomorrow on the same channel at the usual slightly early time on a Saturday, and we'll see you guys then.